reason for that, leading the Asia Talent Cup by a 46-point margin with only 3 races remaining in 2021. We've had 2 heavily interrupted seasons in the Asia Talent Cup, 2020 that of course was curtailed and 21 that we've lost the bulk of the middle of the season. This is Daniel Sharil, our pole sitter. 3 consecutive second places for him, less than a quarter of a second short of the winner though in all of them. By the end of lap 7 in race 1 yesterday he was 6th, 2 seconds behind the leader, and yet almost on pure pace alone he was able to get back on his tail 6 laps later. Sharila's got plenty of pace.
Yeah, and I think there's a few other riders that have that pace as well. We saw Gunmaya make big progress during the course of the races. He set a few fastest laps to bridge a gap to close up on Sharil and Furisado at the front of the field. So keep an eye out for the number 5 as well. Obviously you'd expect as the weekend progresses everyone's going to get a little bit more competitive around this track. They're going to understand where they need to put their bikes to be able to race with the riders around them. We saw yesterday a lot of riders tripping over one another, especially down in towards turn 10. We saw a few crashes there. Yes,
as you say, Gunmie, who was forced into a situation of recovering, frankly, because he didn't have a good first lap at all. He was relegated down to 8th position early on, and although he did get back up into 2nd, it took him until lap 6, and he's not going to want to work that hard again in the opening laps here, not least because if it takes him 6 laps, that's half of the distance now that we've got a revised distance with only 12 laps at the second time of asking. Just saw Gunmie there, the Japanese youngster, a podium finisher yesterday, and that's the 3rd time for him in 5 races. Enough to move him a clear 3rd position in the championship as a result, and just a little bit outpaced in the closing laps, but he's been one of the few riders this season to have had a genuine go at Taya Furusato, the championship leader and the man who is the man to beat, as it were, over the course of this race.
Yeah, certainly the rider with the target on his back. You can see Carter Thompson here down in the pits as well, and Carter's had a pretty solid season. He's been top 5 in 4 of the races so far this year, 7th in the other race, and he finished 4th yesterday, so he's chasing his first ATC podium. He's going to start from the middle of the front row of the grid. This is a good opportunity for him.
Yes, Carter Thompson from the Australian capital of Canberra, who as a result of that 4th place in race 1 moved up to 4th in the championship standings, and as I said previously, the top 4 all still mathematical contenders, but Carter Thompson 66 points down with only 75 up for grabs, so that's in the realms of fantasy, to be perfectly honest. To get up into the top 3 in the series standings is certainly more achievable, but he'll almost certainly need to get onto the podium for the first time this campaign if he is to achieve that. This is his first full season, as it were, in the Asia Talent Cup. He did the opening 2 rounds of the opening round of last season as well, so put a couple of race starts under his belt then.
Yeah, and certainly for Carter, he's got a bit of luck on his side as well. 4th in the championship, the 2 riders behind him in the championship, Denish and Hamada, both out of action in today's running, so he's got the chance to consolidate that 4th position with another decent points paying finish.
Well, this almost looks like a pre-season photograph, doesn't it, with all the bikes lined up, getting the sponsors their advertising time, and the grandstands will enjoy seeing the bikes and riders lining up as well.
Yeah, and everyone does look forward to the Asia Talent Cup races. There's always exciting action on track in the Talent Cups because all these bikes, a standard Honda 250 Moto 3 style bike, are identical. It really is just down to the rider to make the difference. Obviously, the Asia Talent Cup over the last few years has been the Talent Cup to watch in a lot of ways. You've also got the European Talent Cup, the Northern European Talent Cup as well. But when you look at the riders that have come through in the ATC over the years, Grand Prix winners and established Grand Prix riders have become the norm.
This is Azrian Deo, and I would suggest that he's one of the men to watch. He's a little bit further back down the grid. He starts from P10, but made a great start yesterday. He was up to 6th, actually, by the end of the opening lap, and starting a couple of positions further back down the order as well. He was battling for 6th position, then had a crash with Fadila Aditama. So Deo still chasing his first top 10 finish in the Asia Talent Cup, but he starts P10 here, and every reason to suspect that he might be able to pull that off.
Yeah, obviously that crash yesterday with Aditama, and it was unfortunate for him, but he was able to at least show some decent pace during the course of the practice sessions. We'll see what he can do during this race, so keep an eye on the number 19.
The other rider I would suggest that one ought to watch out for a little bit further down the order, Tetsuya Fujita from P15. He was 17th on the grid in race 1 and climbed up to finish in 9th, his best in the class, and he starts, as I've said, a couple of places higher up this time. This is Sharil, who had a really strong first round in Qatar with a 5th and an 8th position. 17 years of age from Malaysia. Only got back into the top 10 for the first time here yesterday with P7.
Yeah, also racing in Europe this year in the European Talent Cup, so getting in plenty of action, even though there's been a big gap in the Asia Talent Cup from the opening rounds in Qatar.
1.5 minutes then until the pit lane opens. The riders will be released. The fact that they're all queuing up in pit lane rather suggests that they won't need too much time from pit lane opening to get straight round towards the start line.
Yeah, they're pretty eager to get out there, get to the grid, and then do their sighting lap and then get straight into action. 12 laps for the ATC, so it is a bit of a sprint, down 4 laps from their original start, but you can see everyone now getting ready. A minute until pit lane opens. The mechanics just starting all those bikes now.
Is there an extent to which, if they had been able to go racing, they might have benefited from the experience, or are we asking too much of such young riders?
I think you're asking too much of some of the younger riders in the class. There's 12-year-old riders in this in their first year, some riders making their debut in the Asia Talent Cup. I think it's fine for the riders at the front of the field that have that bit of experience, but some of those riders a little bit further back at a brand new track like we have here in Mandalika as well, a track where we saw a lot of incidents yesterday. I think it's best to err on the side of caution.
Yes, fair range of ages, as you say, from Veda Pratama at 12 years of age upwards. Of course, there will be an age limit of 13 for any new riders from next season, and then for 2023, if I'm not mistaken, that goes up to 14 from then onwards. So they're trying to sort of narrow the range of ages, because Daniel Sharil at the other end of the scale, 18 years of age, also competing out there with a 12-year-old.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things that's going to change over the next few years. Obviously, with everything that's happened this year, really important to be able to make some of those changes, and that increase in the minimum age is going to be something that's going to make a big difference. Speaking to some of the riders that have come through into the Talent Cups over the last few years, the one thing that they've said is adapting to a bike of this size, tyres and wheels of this size, is actually one of the biggest challenges, moving from mini bikes onto these kind of bikes, and that's where it takes a little bit of time to get that experience. But certainly all these riders, we've seen it time and time again in the ATC over the years, they're all very competitive, very fast. There's a really good screening process, tryouts for ATC, and it really is a case of getting the best of the best from each of the different regions. Obviously here in the Asia Talent Cup, you're taking in a pool of talent from Asia, the Middle East, and then also Australasia as well. So you get the Australians, New Zealand riders can get the opportunity to race here. We've seen Turkish riders like the Onchu brothers racing in this class in the past, and then obviously a whole host of Asian riders, whether it's the likes of Samkyat Chantra here from Indonesia, the likes of Kaito Toba, the first champion coming from Japan. This is the chance for these riders. It means that you're able to have affordable racing, show your talent, give yourself the chance of moving on to the bigger stage. That's been one of the big positives we've seen since 20.
Winning run for another race here this afternoon now. I was about to say this morning, but we've now crossed into afternoon with the delayed start. Then Furusato will be crowned as the winner, finish round 3, and then the final race of the Asia Talent Cup season tomorrow.
Yeah, not confusing at all, and certainly for the ATC riders, they're not going to be confused when the lights go out in a couple of minutes' time. They're going to come to the grid now, and then easily can be the case as well. So riders do need to be careful in that run into turn 1, 90-degree right-hander.
Reminder of the grid then for race 2, and it's a slightly different order to what we had for race 1 yesterday. It was a demolition derby at the first time of asking around this Mandalika International Circuit, and 2 riders unfortunately withdrawn through injury. Kanta Hamada fractured left forearm, and Hakim Denish a crash from 5th position. He's out with a double fracture to his right wrist. So we're 2 riders down, but that does mean that several riders promoted to be a little bit closer to the front, and a couple of riders to watch further down the order. Adrian Deo starting from P10. He was very competitive right from the start, firing his way through in the early stages, and Tetsuya Fujita, who starts from P15, and he managed to work his way up from 17th to 9th at the first time of asking in race 1.
Yeah, even further down the field, when you look at the ATC, you can have riders that just have that one weekend where it really clicks into place. They're able to have good results. You look at the back of the grid, Nicholas on the number 12 machine. He might be starting 19th in this race. He has a top 5 finish to his name in the Qatari rounds as well. So there is speed all the way through the field here in ATC.
And another example of exactly what you've just said, Rei Wakamatsu, who's had 2 4th place finishes in the 4 races that took place in Qatar at the start of this season, the Qatar Grand Prix and then the Doha Grand Prix. I mentioned that we had 7 retirements requirements in race 1, so riders towards the back of the field did largely make progress if they stayed on their bikes.
Yeah, the big riders to keep an eye on, obviously Furusato on the number 15, he's the maximum man, he's won every race so far this season. Daniel Sharil on pole position on the 21, he's got 3 podiums in a row, and then Gunmaye on the number 5 machine, he's had 3 podiums through the course this season.
We'll do our very best to keep you abreast of the championship situation as we go through as well, because this could be the race in which it's all settled. Taiyo Furusato, 125 points, 46 up on Daniel Sharil, the rider who's finished second to him in each of the last 3 races, the 18-year-old from Malaysia, and Gunmaye, the 15-year-old from Japan, still chasing his first race victory in this class, has had 3 podiums in the last 5. Dark clouds still looming overhead as the riders complete their warm-up lap. And if we do get wet weather, it will quickly become treacherous out there. Yeah,
whatever weather we've had so far today has come from the ocean backwards, so it is pushing with it some clearer skies. So hopefully for the 12-lap Asia Talent Cup race, we're able to get through and see some nice clean action on what's a mostly dry track at this stage.
Yes, we didn't order the weather until World Superbike Race 1, did we? So it's starting to come a little bit early. It doesn't normally happen when you order something. 12 laps coming up. A revised number of laps. Finally, we get underway.
We get through those first couple of corners cleanly. We did see one rider running out wide through that opening corner, but everyone cleanly through
at this stage.
Yeah, and certainly at the front of the field, Daniel, tenths of a second.
Feardaus was the rider to lose out in that scrapping. And you can see them all still at it, but it's enabling the leaders to break away. Daniel Sharil, the